So I'd like to welcome the many advocates, teachers, parents, and professionals supporting young children here. As we know, our young children in the state of Vermont are indeed our greatest asset. So I'm here to speak with you a little bit about pre-kindergarten education, and specifically H270, which is our bill that has passed the House and is now resting, it seems a little too comfortably, in the Senate. And they are presumably reviewing the bill, and we're hoping that with your help, we can move that bill out of the Senate and onto the governor's desk before the end of this session. So by investing in high-quality early education, we provide a foundation for learning that can't be replicated later in life. And I think almost everyone in this room probably feels that in their bones. H270 builds on our existing infrastructure, and it expands access to pre-K for all of Vermont's 3- and 4-year-olds. Not only are we ensuring that Vermont's children arrive at school ready to learn, but we're enabling the next generation of Vermonters to acquire the tools that they need to reach economic security as adults. Despite conclusive evidence about the economic return realized through early interventions, 17% of Vermont's communities do not offer publicly funded pre-kindergarten education. It's no surprise that our achievement gap in Vermont has remained virtually unchanged for over 2 decades, while the opportunities for early learning are so disparate among our children. I had the experience this past town meeting week to talk with a few of my peers and friends and colleagues in my hometown of Tunbridge, which does not offer publicly funded pre-K. And I heard firsthand some of the stories of parents who are struggling to ensure that their kids have opportunities to learn when it's developmentally appropriate. And the struggles really are significant, from transporting children to different towns and trying to manage financially the cost, the investment really of placing their children in these high quality facilities. We all know that children who aren't able to access high quality early education for whatever reason are more likely to challenge the resources of our education system throughout their K-12 experience. And by eliminating the real life hurdles to pre-K enrollment, we're making wiser investments with our education dollars. So in conclusion, this bill is a win-win-win for students, communities, and taxpayers. And as I mentioned earlier, the bill has passed the House, it sits in the Senate, and it really needs your anecdotal stories and your personal investment in speaking with our senators and our decision makers to help them understand the real value and the real impact that early education has on our children and on our state. And so with that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Aubrey Boyles, who is a member of Mama Says, and is a local parent of a preschool-aged child. So with that, I'd like to introduce Aubrey.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Boyles, and I'm here today to show my support for H270, the pre-K bill that would require all Vermont towns to provide access to preschool, publicly funded preschool, to all of their preschool-age residents. I have 2 children myself. I have a daughter who's 4, who's actually just outside. I realized I should have brought her in. And I have a son who's 8. And years ago, when our son was of preschool age, my husband and I were in a position to provide him with 2 years, almost 2 full years of preschool. But this year, when our daughter should be in preschool, she's spending the year at home with me. You might think that's great, really lucky. I get to spend the year with her. It's fabulous. I have a lot I can teach her, but I also work full-time from home. I have a small home daycare, and most of my clients are a lot younger than my daughter. So instead of making bonds with other caregivers and teachers, and instead of being inspired and pushed to try new things, she's been at home with me and the little ones. And I can't tell you how many other families I know that are struggling to pay for their preschool bills, and whether they're having to forgo the purchase of a home or trying to avoid major credit card debt, by not enrolling or going into debt by enrolling in preschool, or until recently having to forgo quality health insurance. There are a lot of families like mine that are really struggling. So I would ask, as a society, are we doing what we can for our preschool age students? And I feel like we're not. I feel like we can do better. And when Madeline Kunin was governor, the big push was for publicly funded kindergarten. And we were able to make that available to all of Vermont's children. And now that we've done more research on brain development and early learning, the push now is for publicly funded preschool. And so I urge our legislators to pass this bill and to provide early learning experiences for kids during some of their most critical years of brain development. So with that said, I am going to pass the podium to Andrea Sandberg from Annette's preschool.
Thank you. My name's Andrea Sandberg. I'm the owner and director of Annette's Preschool in Heinsberg, Vermont. We're a 5-star early care and education program serving families with children 6 weeks to 12 years. I wanted to take a moment to share with you some of the specific reasons why publicly funded pre-K dollars, when they're made available through public partnerships with providers, have important outcomes, not only for children, families, but also particularly for my own business and others in the communities like me. My father used to joke with me about that economics class that he urged me to take in college. I refused. I probably rolled my eyes as well, and I studied psychology and child development, so who needs economics? Well, as a business owner and a child development researcher today, I will admit that economics class could have come in handy, and here's why. Every morning, I greet many of the more than 100 families and children that we serve. And of those 100, about 40 who are ages 3 to coming up to 5 receive early learning partnership funds through the partnerships that we have with 3 different school districts. So that's 40%. That's an easy one. Well, here's where it gets more interesting. The 10 hours of publicly funded pre-K are important to me, not because I have lots of families who are knocking on my door to come enroll for 10 hours, but because the funds which these 10 hours cover make the other 30 to 40 hours that those families require every week more affordable. When the cost of high-quality care is decreased for families, it increases the demand for full-time programs like mine and others. It's interesting to note that the vast majority of these 40 children in my program receiving the early learning partnership funds are enrolled full-time. And here's where that economics class kind of kicks in. As a licensed early care and education center, I must abide by ratios, which are 1 to 10 for children in the ages 3 to 5. If there's 11 children, then I need to hire a second teacher, many of which, my other fixed costs remain the same. So this concept of ratios in early care is something that I need to build into my own business models. Salaries, rent, classroom space, heating, overhead. Therefore, it's essential that I operate my program at a high capacity, 80 to 85%, to be a sustainable business, to be able to provide for my community. Sustainability isn't just part of my mission, but it directly affects my 19 employees, my 100 plus families, so that not only my employees have jobs and a living wage, that families can contribute to the workforce and ultimately to the tax base, and the benefits to children so they can grow and learn in their best possible environment during their critically early years. Just yesterday, a young mom from Heinsberg came to visit our program. She had 2 children, an infant and a preschooler, and she had the luck and the good affordability of having a maternity leave that she was taking. She was struggling to find high-quality care for both her infant and her preschooler, and she was also struggling to pay for it. So when I told her about our early learning program grant, she was relieved because she was one of those families that had missed the cutoff for the Child Care Financial Assistance Program. So for her, the grant funds, the sibling discount, and these 10 hours made the difference between being able to enroll her child in a program of quality such as ours, and not to have to consider a less expensive option or even an unlicensed program. Research studies have concluded that high-quality programs differentiate the best outcomes for kids. And when children learn through play that print and numbers have meaning, sharing, waiting, turn-taking, learning to be a good friend, it all pays off, and that mastery motivation helps them achieve goals, then we've begun to realize the promise of every Vermont child. These experiences are not universally available, but they are built through intentional investment in early childhood, professional preparation of our educators, and through public-private partnerships enabled by H270. So I support that. Thank you.
I'd like to make one final comment, and then I apologize that I have to go back to my committee. But I think that this is a perfect group for me to raise one of the concerns that I, as a policymaker, and I think some of my colleagues have, and that is with regard to early childhood. So much of the information that informs our decision-making is absent in the form of concrete data. So in many other policy areas, it's easy to say, if you add this, you get this. Reason tells us that what we do, what you do every day makes a major difference. But the way that we tell the story and make the compelling case for investments in early childhood is a little bit different. And so I'm sharing with you that your experiences matter, and it matters more in this area of policy than perhaps even other areas of policy, because we don't have some consistency in data collection around human development and the outcomes that we have in other areas. So with that, I hope that you really do take seriously your opportunity today to engage with your representatives and your senators, I'll say that one more time, every single one of them, and remind them that the investments that they're poised to make in passing H270 and other early childhood support systems is extremely important, and you are here to testify about the impact that those investments have on the lives of children, families, and our society overall. So thank you to all of you for all that you do for our most valuable resource.
Sarah Buxton for her championship of the pre-K bill over the years. And to many other representatives and senators who have seen this as a priority and have been able to move this bill as far as it is today. I wanted to wrap up the pre-K press conference by acknowledging that the Alliance put out a petition on H270 1 week ago, and we had over 150 signatures by individuals and organizations that wanted to express their support and urge for the passage of H270. I'm sure we could have gotten 1,000 if we had done it with more time, but it does reflect the widespread support that is in our communities from many different sectors. That petition, as well as stories on pre-K and other issues, was handed out to legislators this morning, and will continue to do that, handing out of those storybooks to legislators throughout the day. Many of you did begin the day and begin your conversation with legislators already on pre-K and other issues this morning at the breakfast bar. So thank you for being there and interacting with legislators. Others of you spent time in committee testimony explaining how the impact of some of these bills and budgets in early childhood impact the community and the constituencies that you serve. We also have some education here in the card room. So we're doing our part to let legislators know we have information, we can be a resource when we're visible here today, because we think this is a very important issue.